The Cry of Winnie Mandela is a theatrical production adapted from Njabulo Ndebele's novel. The theatre production was brought to life by the Market Theatre and deals with the historical struggles of women in South Africa. This thoughtful new play about resilience is adapted by Alex Berger and directed by the award-winning Momo Matsunyane, director and actress. And she's here in studio to walk us through this. Momo, great to see you. Thanks so much for coming onto the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
The Cry of Winnie Mandela.
Yeah.
Why the cry?
Because it's a cry. It's a cry of waiting. As we know, Winnie Mandela famously waited for 27 years for her husband to return from prison. And so the story chronicles the cry of many women like her who have been waiting, whether it's as a result of migrant labor, waiting for their husbands to come back. We are here in South Africa. We are almost a country in waiting as well, almost waiting for some kind of miracle, for things to kind of fall into place. So it's a cry that represents the African female voice at heart.
Now, you talk about other characters, so there are 4 characters that speak to various individual journeys. Now, one of the things that astounds me personally is the fortitude and resilience of women. And we talk about Winnie Mandela and how she waited 27 years, and how much of that is evident in this narrative? Sure.
So the play begins with the playwright trying to write the story about Winnie Mandela. But he's struggling. He's struggling because he's tussling with the ideas of how she went from being this historical political figure to being almost villainized and vilified by the end of apartheid, come TRC. And so as he's trying to grapple with these issues and how to represent this iconic figure, these other 4 women come to him as a way of helping him write Winnie's story, but they begin through their stories. I think resilience is at the heart of most African women during apartheid. We see today the lack of father figures in our homes. A lot of it was because women had to hold the fort in the homes. And so we see it through these characters. It's also a story about triumph, right? Because, of course, she didn't just wait for 27 years. She was very active on the ground, and she was very present and fearless. And, of course, suffered many consequences as a result, whether it was her arrest in Brandfort, her being, abused while incarcerated. So the waiting is also a celebration of the activity that happens in the absence of the figures that we long for.
So obviously these other 3 women outside of Winnie Mandela's story tell their own stories.
Yes, they do.
Of sorts.
Yes,
Are they greatly overshadowed, or can we expect to be able to relate to those 3 individuals?
Of course. Firstly, there's 4, and then Winnie, and then the prof's character. So, very relatable. They are our mothers, they are our aunts. The one story is about a lady whose husband left Lesotho, and she ended up having to man the farm and manage the children. And she goes in search for her husband, but never really finds him. The other one was also into politics. Her name is Mamello, and her husband leaves after being exiled, and when he comes back up post-94, he marries a white woman and leaves her in the lurch. Then we've also got Udelisiwe, whose husband was a philanderer and a womanizer, and so she also then had to hold down the fort in her house. And we've also got Marara, whose husband was just purely absent but in the home, up until such a time that he got ill, and now she was responsible for making sure that she took care of him up until he died, and had to put on this facade of being the strong black woman who stood by her man despite how terribly he treated her. So those are all very relatable stories.
Well, you're directing this, but you're also an actress.
Yes.
So let's talk about some of the challenges and creative decisions you've had to make in adapting Njabulo Ndebele's novel into this theatrical production.
Right. So Alex Berger did a fantastic job. We had a reading sometime last year of the production, and then the artistic director of the Market Theatre, Greg Herman, contacted me and asked me if I would be interested in directing the show. Of course, I was over the moon and jumped at the opportunity. And then along with Alex, we've been going back and forth, submitting different kinds of drafts. I think he reveres Prof so much that I think there was at some times, at some points, a marriage to the novel, and I had to kind of be that voice of reason to say, listen, I completely understand that you want to honor Prof as well as the novel, but dramatically, when we stage this, we need to think about some of the things that contribute to making a play a successful play. So we needed to add some drama, we needed to, you know, add conflict, we needed a carrying device that will make it far more appealing, because we're not just translating from novel to stage. We need to add the drama and the dramaturgy to it. So it was a bit of a challenge, but a beautiful challenge at that, because now the draft that we have and the one that I'm directing is absolutely amazing.
So there's a lot of history that we look at, and part of the motive of waiting, right, is a big theme in it.
Yeah.
But the modern woman doesn't wait.
No.
The modern woman is taught to live life very, very differently to what Momo Winnie and many others would have lived many years ago.
I think that's true. But of course, the metaphor of waiting can, you know, address many other things in our lives. Like I said, in South Africa, you know, we are waiting to live in a country where women are not at risk walking to the shops or just, you know, being outside late at night. We are waiting to live in a society that is safe for us, a society that respects us. And so the theme of waiting, I mean, along with all the other themes that the play does explore, it is about triumph, it is about celebration, it is about overcoming. And so we are not necessarily, you know, just kind of putting on a woe is me production about what it means to be a black woman in waiting. No, it's also a celebration of that life. And the things that we do while we are waiting for other things to happen, how do we continue with our lives? These women just didn't wait for their men to come back. No, they continued. They built schools. They engaged in the community. They were support systems for those around them and in their families. So more than anything, it's a celebration. It's a celebration of the life that Mama Winnie lived and the resilience that she displayed. But it's also a celebration of just different generations of black women. So yeah, we're waiting for money, waiting
for all sorts.
Yes.
Now, Momo, it's obviously very, very intense in instances. A lot of emotions.
Yes.
You know, the weight, the frustration. You're raising children, and you have to deal with issues. But you've also woven some humour into it.
Yes.
Talk to us about how you were able to put all of that together.
Well, I mean, you know, they say there's a very thin line between comedy and tragedy, right? In the same way that we can laugh while we are at a funeral. It's because we recognize that it's all interwoven. And so while these women are experiencing some of the challenges that they share stories about themselves that are absolutely hilarious. They make fun of the professor who is supposedly meant to be writing the story about them. And it's those humorous moments that carry the women through the difficult times. They have a group called Ibandla Labafazi Balindile. And it is through this Ibandla where they're able to share humorous anecdotes and poke fun at the very men that they are supposedly waiting for. And to reimagine a different society where none of these issues exist. So there's lots of humor, there's lots of music, there's also going to be projections of archival material, because I really want it to be an immersive experience and almost like a docu-play, where as we're experiencing part of, you know, historically the things that happened, but we're also betwixt and between these worlds of fantasy and reality and surrealism. And so it's going to be very interesting to see how it all comes together. But we've been having an absolute blast in rehearsals. We're laughing more than we're crying. So perhaps the cry is not apt, but it's a cry from laughter, a cry of joy, a cry of celebration.
Now, you talked to us about how you were found and appointed or offered the role of directing. How did you find your cast? Because it's obviously a myriad of characters, personalities,
right. Yes.
and I think one of those underlying aspects that you'd be looking for is who is able to depict the message that you want to get across.
So we put out a brief and we had auditions. And I'm not a fan of the standard audition format, right, where people come in and they perform a particular monologue or whatever. So I had my audition in 2 phases. So the first part, of course, I need to see if you're able to retain text. What are you like performing under pressure and all of that stuff. And then from there, I had a short list of the cast. And then I invited them for a second round of auditions, but not necessarily auditions. I conducted them like a rehearsal. So I wanted to see what they would be like in process. Can they work together? Do they have a great sense of ensemble, a sense of awareness? Can they play? Can you offer me something that isn't in the script? And based on the brief that you've been given for the characters. And I began to see just pockets of like bright lights popping up, and I was like, ooh, I can see them playing with that one. I can see that person playing alongside this person.
So did you have individuals who were auditioning for specific roles?
Yes.
And then you realized that, you know what, I'm gonna move you to another role because
Absolutely. And as I slept on my choices, it became clearer and clearer. So because, I mean, I believe the work that we do is very spiritual, and sometimes you just need to sleep on something. And then you wake up and you go, Eureka! I know she might not be great for the role she auditioned for, but I definitely think she'd be better placed here. And so, yeah, that's how the process happened. I am extremely fortunate to have the cast that I have. I mean, we've got Mam Nambita Mpumlwana, who's playing Mam Winnie Mandela. We've got Rami Chweni, who's playing Manite. We've got Siyasanga Papu, who's playing Marara. We've got Les Nkosi, who's playing Professor Ndebele himself. We've got Pulani Rampwana, who's playing Mamello. And we've got Ayanda CBC playing Delisiwe. So it's an amazing cast with different skills and different talents. And they've got such a great energy together, and they all like multi-talented. So I want to make sure that I use their skills as much as I can and create magic. But we are having a blast in rehearsal. It's a lot of fun to dream and imagine with them. Yeah.
You know, I often say to my colleagues that what you see in front of the telly doesn't do justice to the amount of work that goes on behind the scenes.
Oh my goodness!
Right? So let's talk about your team behind the scenes that's bringing all of this to life.
Well, we've got Vangile, who is doing my AV and sound design. We have Ali Mudikha, who is my stage manager. We've got Untatile, who is doing our costume design, and we've got Wilhelm, who will be designing my set and my lights. Incredible creatives. I like the mix. I think it was a very unpredictable team, but I like to work. I like intergenerational work. I like work that affords us the opportunity to learn from one another, despite how long you've been in the industry or doing whatever you've been doing. I think so. It was a deliberate appointment of these people in these roles, so that together we can create the best chakalaka of a play.
Chakalaka of a play. I'm going to steal that. I quite like the idea that you've brought in a subject matter that I wanted to talk about, and that's the opportunity for individuals that are novices or still very, very green.
Yes.
You know, because we don't all start off as superstars.
Of course.
Definitely don't start off experienced. There's a process of learning.
Yes.
How much space or time have you given to individuals that are novices, but obviously have a huge amount of potential?
I think, based on my own experience, it was very difficult for me in the beginning of my career to get certain opportunities. A lot of that came because I'm just a black woman with a mouth, and many people don't like that. And so it took away many opportunities from me. I was gate-kept and et cetera, right? And I just began independently producing and creating my own work, and basically said to myself, the industry will catch up with me, right? And I'm grateful that it has. But as a young person, you need access into mainstream spaces. You need access to people. I need to be able to just have conversations with people who've been in this for much longer than I have, whether it's for advice or guidance or mentorship. We know how important mentorship is in the world, generally, in whatever sector you work in. And so it was important for me that the cast represents the younger people who might not necessarily have had access into these spaces, but also have a balance with the people who have been in these spaces for the longest time, so that we can share, we can exchange. It's a cultural and artistic exchange, and it was important for me that even the people from Vangile, who's doing my sound, he's like 21. Right, and the AV. But then we've also got someone like Wilhelm, who's been in the industry for a very long time doing the lighting. So it's very important for me to constantly create a space where these intergenerational conversations can happen. Young people are dying for opportunities like this. And if I am in a space where I can afford somebody an opportunity to work at the Market Theatre, which is a prestigious institution in the country, why not?
Mom, I literally have half a minute for my final question.
Oh, damn.
And this question is about the audience.
Yeah.
You know, those of us that are going to come and watch and experience this. What can we expect?
You can expect magic. You can expect spirit. You can expect ritual. I mean, we are bringing Mum Winnie to life, for goodness sakes, right? So that is an entire ritual on its own. People can expect fun, tears, but more than anything, it's a story that people are really going to connect with. It's our story. It's local. It's completely South African in any references that are there. It's a beautiful story told by amazing people. It runs from the 30th of March until the 21st of April at the Market Theatre. Tickets are already on sale at Web Tickets, and they're already flying. So I would encourage a lot of South Africans to come. I hope to see you there, Hugo.
You definitely are. Momo, really good having you in studio.
Thank you so much for having me.
Momo Matsunyane, The Cry of Winnie Mandela theatrical production, and something that she is directing. Well, up next...